Storm clouds, that worked so well.
Without this, I would be lost.
My life would be very bland.
I can't even fathom myself without this.
I would be dead by now, or a religious nut of some sort, either joining a cult or trying to create my own cult.
Without this, I would be non-existent, but with this, I have meaning.
But with this, I am capable.
With this, I feel connected.
With this, I am an example.
I'm Brian. I'm a transmedia storyteller. I have depression, anxiety, and PTSD. And I remember about 10 years ago, I got up on stage at a film festival and I announced myself. I said, "Hello, I'm Brian, and welcome to these films." And that was the first time that I ever felt a warmth from other people.
I have depression, anxiety, ADHD, and probably some undiagnosed PTSD.
I am diagnosed with bipolar II disorder, a mild form of OCD, and borderline personality disorder. The first time that I realized doing installation art and connecting with the community through marketing helped was when I realized that I was actually doing something that was much bigger than myself, that brought a lot of people joy. And putting things in that perspective was really helpful. Even though I feel this way about myself, or I wake up feeling a certain way about myself, something that I've done has left a stamp for other people to feel good about themselves.
When I was 15 years old, I had a drama teacher that was teaching improv at my high school, and I didn't have a great home life, and that was probably the first time I could apply my energy in an art form and not get a negative reaction.
I'm a creative designer and a comedic performer, and I have ADHD-induced anxiety and depression disorder, so that's fun.
Performing improv was wonderful, and I could do it at high school. When I tried doing it outside of high school, some of the hurdles that I ran into were gatekeepers, people that just thought I looked too young or didn't think I was very funny. You know, especially improv where you're performing from your worldview. I had a very dark, skewed worldview, and I wasn't necessarily in the right setting to express my honest feelings on stage without it being met with like a groan or pity from the audience. They were there to see comedy. So that was definitely a hurdle of how do I deal with a lot of this immense emotion that's heavy and not always so funny on a comedy stage.
First time I realized this helped, I feel like I was very young, like a little kid, and just playing the piano that was in my house I grew up in.
When I was a kid, I had crippling anxiety because my parents moved around a lot. But my dad had this camera, and I filmed these stupid short films with the local neighbor kids, and we became best friends, and that helped a lot with my anxiety and connecting with people.
I think that anxiety and depression have the same roots, so I would say that I probably have both, just whatever day it seems to manifest itself in that way. I've used movement as something that helps me since I was a preteen. I went running like as fast as I possibly could. Anytime I get like a surge of anger or whatever teens go through, all of that like ups and downs, I'd just go running barefoot like down the street and then come back and huff and puff and kind of collapse and feel better.
I do gardening, I play music, I'm a candidate for the Green Party for Salt Lake County Mayor, a community organizer, air quality activist, and I have bipolar I disorder.
I am a poet and a spoken word performer. I'm also a teacher, and I have a history of alcoholism and disordered eating.
I use cooking to deal with my OCD. obsessive compulsive disorder.
Cooking was a way to get out of my head. When you're cooking, you have to use your senses to pay attention to what's going on in the pot or on the cutting board or in the oven or whatever. You're always smelling, listening, tasting as you go.
Is something I can do 5 minutes at a time if that's all the amount of time that I have to do it. But not being able to leave the house, sometimes that's the only movement I get during the day.
I have bipolar disorder type 2 and some ADD and a little bit of PTSD, but that hasn't been a problem for a couple years.
Clowning found me by accident. I actually got divorced, and right around that time, burlesque and clowning both came in at the same time. So I didn't really choose it. This was something I was called to, something that I could do really well, and something that not only helped me, but helped my audiences and helped me deal with my life falling apart, really, and figure out where to go after everything kind of dismantled itself.
Shortly after my first breakdown with psychosis from bipolar 1, I ran into the idea of regenerative or earth healing gardening and farming. Ever since then, gardening, and not just for myself, but advocating for it, organizing around it, supporting local farmers with it, experiencing it with my community beside me, has been intimately tied to my health and well-being.
It's tough, like for a lot of musicians, you know, sometimes they feel like the whole thing is to connect with people and communicate to people through your music, and I think it's really hard sometimes to feel comfortable in your own skin and be able to feel like yourself and just put yourself out there in front of people, because you sometimes get a lot of judgment and hate from certain people from playing your music and expressing yourself. So I think it's really important to be able to overcome those things and just express yourself anyway and be yourself.
One time my dad laughed and said, "Oh, that was a good one." And then he said, "I love you and I'm proud of you." And I thought that was kind of cool because he's very hard to impress.
I do this show every year called An October Evening. It's a punk rock Halloween show. And this kid had a credit card with one of our marketing materials on his credit card. And before I could even say anything, he said, "Man, I'm just a huge fan." And I just smiled and I said, "That's the best compliment I've ever had in my life." And that was that. And honestly, if I heard somebody else say that story, I would say that they were a liar.
The nicest thing that anyone has ever said about my things, I can't find one, but I would say, I'll get choked up on this one, but anybody that has ever said that what I have done has somehow touched their lives or changed their understanding of themselves or allowed themselves to get more in touch with themselves or proud of themselves, any of that makes my life worth living.
I'm Brian, and doing this helps that.
Doing this helps that.
Doing this helps that.